our reliance on state aid may not be as high as others, percentage-wise. Our state aid is about 12 or 13% of the total budget. I think you're doing another district where it's completely...
Yeah, it's about like 62%.
Yeah, so it's completely opposite. But they still affect both districts, and decisions have to be made based upon that. So it's interesting that you're doing both. You'll get a feel for each side. And but our message to them is we count on state aid, and we need it. We may be considered wealthier than other districts, but we need state aid as well. And we also go with the message of Long Island and our fair share just on Long Island in general. And we haven't been receiving our fair share. So we're trying to relay that message as well. I can't speak for Wyandanch. I can only speak for what we do, and I know that we spend our money responsibly, that we get a certain amount of state aid, but the property tax burden, and for Half Hollow Hills, for Wyandanch, for every district on Long Island, is getting more and more difficult to handle. And I think that's throughout. The problem when we're in a recession like this is that districts such as Wyandanch rely on state aid so much more. The percentage you said was 62%.
Yeah.
So consider a decrease of 5% in Wyandanch versus 5% in another district like Half Hollow Hills. The dollar amount is greater in Wyandanch because you depend on so much more aid. So that is a problem. That piece of it is a problem. At the same time, our taxpayers have been paying so much more of the burden because we don't get as much state aid over the long haul. But when you're in a year like this where state aid is being cut, Wyandanch has a bigger problem because they depend on it so much. They could be facing double-digit tax increases because their aid is being cut if they want to sustain the program that they have. So yes, they're different. The have and have-nots, the funding formulas need to be addressed, and they need to be overhauled and changed. The wealth ratios have to be reanalyzed, and the regional cost factors have to be analyzed.
If these budget cuts end up passing, hypothetically speaking, what do you think would happen to the gap between? There's a clear and significant gap between students from Half Hills West and students from Wyandanch Memorial High School. The graduation rate, the if they end up going to college or whatnot. So there's just a gap between the students. If these budget cuts pass, what do you think would happen to the gap? Would it stay the same? Would it decrease? Would it increase? What do you think?
Would the gap
between
change between the two? It's tough to answer that not knowing what Wyandanch does and what their program currently is.
Yeah.
It's tough to respond to that. If anyone gets cut, and there's state aid cuts everywhere, the program is going to diminish on all levels.